Now, ladies and gentlemen, what we'd like to do is you've got 3.5 top investigators up here.
Oh.
Sorry about that.
No, we thought you were the
I am. I'm just trying to get it off onto him. You got at least 3 really good investigators up here, and we've got all kinds of neat questions. This is your time to ask all the questions you didn't have a chance to ask these people, and I'll give you a hint. This is just the way I am. They may not agree with this, but this is my thinking. Ask anything you want.
And give me
If we don't have the answer, fine if we do, but if you don't ask, you're never going to find
And
out.
give me a minute to run over there with the microphone so your question can be heard on the video. Okay?
That'd be great.
It's my way or the highway.
Yes, sir. That's it. And that highway is a long, long road home.
Oh, anybody got a question?
This is a question for Mr. Derrel. The implants that are being inputted into humans, how long do they last? Do they last like a lifetime? And then you said that there are different programs the aliens are utilizing them for. Do you know anything about those programs? Could you talk about them?
I do. And I'm going to say this for the speakers as well. These are all professional people. I'm on a lot of panels, and they're not professional people on there, and they're called media whores. And they'll get that microphone and they'll talk forever, and the other people never get to talk. So I'm going to give you a succinct, clear answer as quickly as I can, because I don't want to hog other people's time, because these are great people. This is your chance to go after them. The simple answer to the question is we found implants that have been in people for at least 40 years. How much longer than that, I don't know, because we can only date it from the time of the abduction and the time they know that it was inserted and so on to the time it was actually removed by my team in 1995. So therefore it's about 40 years for that one. In my case, in the abduction when I was 12 years old, not long after that, in my opinion, it was probably removed within, by the time of 12, by the time I was 17 it was gone. Because I've had full body scans and all kinds of x-rays, there's nothing there. Last event was when I was 17. That's the best I know. So those are 2 illustrations of how long they can be in there. Sometimes they come and remove them. We have people in this room who have told me that personally, that they even knew when they removed them and later put them back in. In my case, they didn't. Implants are please let me enforce this. I don't care whether you buy my book out there or not. Implants are extremely rare. Anybody that tells you I have 4 implants here and 5 over here, that's not true. You'll be the first person in history. The implants that we find are very rare. I look at hundreds of x-rays every year. You know how many of them are actual real implant cases? Maybe 1 or 2, maybe. So the idea that everybody has had an abduction account, a real abduction is implanted, is just not true. They don't have to. They know where you're at. They're not tracking devices. They know where you're at. How do you think you got the first implant? They know where you're at. They know where you live. So the other question, and I don't mean to be curt here, is go read my book, because the answer to that question, what programs are they putting you on? Lord have mercy. It would take hours to answer that question, but the simple answer is that there are programs, and if you're in my what I call a good one, then it'll appear benevolent to you, and you'll probably like it. You'll think they're here to save the planet, fix the ozone hole, and all kinds of wonderful things, which in my opinion they're not doing. But if it's benevolent to you, that's a good enough answer, and I'm okay with that. But I don't think the aliens are all bad or all that. I just don't think they're who we think they are. I just don't believe that. The evidence shows, in my opinion, they're from here. That's the best simple answer I can give you. The DNA, I think, so far indicates they're from here.
Mine's for Clifford. It seemed like, just to me, that as far as the native people and the information that you were giving, it seemed like most of the people seem to talk about them as a benevolent, that they've been in the tradition of y'all talking about that they come to help and things like that. Is that the case you usually find, or have you found some stuff like he's talking about is more malevolent?
Well, most of the teachings are that they're benevolent, but it's like anything else in the universe. There's a plus and minus. It's got a balance, and it's also like the mechanic says, between a Phillips screwdriver and a flat screwdriver, plus and minus. So they got a balance, but once in a while they go off balance. And right now we're at that stage where the dark forces are upper hand, but they'll come back down to balance again.
So you're feeling that it's different people or different space people than from the stories that are with us now, opposed to the stories in your legends and things like that?
It's just like anything else. When they get out of control,
So you think it's the same
we're out of
people?
control right now. If you look at the balance, it's like even in your own body. When you lack certain things, your whole system comes out of, it goes into an unbalanced situation. So right now, the malevolent beings, and this is why we go through on rituals. That's why the rituals and the societies were set in place a long time ago. It's a thing that say time immemorial, and that's to keep everything in balance. But we're out of balance because of what we are doing, what mankind is doing, not only to themselves but to the universe at large, and of course the immediate one is Mother Earth. And we are now at that stage. And when I talked about previous times, about remember the Hopi, the Pueblo people talk about this is the fourth world. That's why they got rid of the other ones. I think that we kind of went off on the extreme about 12. It was the end of the world. No, it's the end of a cycle, and we all go through cycles.
So by us being unbalanced, we're attracting the unbalance. I'm just not clear on if these are the same people, same star people, but they're just acting in a different way because of the Earth, the way things are going. I'm kind of confused here a little bit.
If you look at everything is supposed to be in balance.
Right.
You know, when you talk about the butterfly effect, you know, we're talking about one little element will upset the total. And this is where that, even in the medical curing world, when we talk about holistic medicine, holistic balance, one little thing, you know, the components of the whole thing, there's additional things into what they call a holistic balance.
Sure.
Whether it's scientific, whether it's thought processes, whether it's physical, but that's what we're going through right now. And these are the things that were predicted a long time ago, or at least not predicted, but told by the ones that have always been in contact with the human race, because they're the ones that created the upgrades, the downloads, and all we're supposed to follow them. So this is where the malevolent side of it takes over, and we're at that stage right now. According to the teachings of, you take any Aboriginal group on the planet, and they're all talking about the same thing. The language is different, where they are in the environment is different, but if you look at it from a pretty away from that, it's just like looking at things, and if you pull back out, you can see the whole thing, the whole total picture.
So
we're
it was just one side, like I'm just not clear, because it just seems like that there's so much negative opposed to from the Navajo or from the Zuni or Hopi traditions, that they talk so positive about the star beings. That's just, I'm not understanding if this are different star beings or just
Yes.
different, okay, that's
Yes,
what I wanna know.
they're both
Gotcha.
bad
Right,
and good.
okay.
You can't have one without the other.
No, you can't have a balance.
Throughout life, you've got that yin yang.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like he said, sometimes things get out of balance.
Sure.
You know, you look in our society and influences like drugs and things like that in certain areas become so prevalent that that particular society has trouble maintaining just everyday life because of those things. You know, people that in the other cities get addicted to things like heroin and methamphetamine and it destroys their lives. So they lose their life in a lot of cases. But you do have a lot of good. I mean, I see that in people coming together like what you're doing right here, right now, to learn. And life is a journey where every day we're learning something from others. We need to be open-minded and have an open heart and share it.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yes, you did good.
So my next question is for you, sir. I can't remember your name, but you got the cowboy hat there. So
Cowboys and Indians.
all right. So okay. I liked your display on the fluorescence. So my question is going to be along those lines. When we're talking about like finding the average or the mean in like a math problem, there's always outliers to the equations. So just like in the human race, you can't bundle everybody in a group. There's always individuals and everything, kind of along the lines of the good and bad, right?
Right.
But in that in the fluorescence presentation, it almost seemed like for each different race there was a different program. Is that what's going on?
The short answer to the question may not be the answer you need or want, but the answer I have for you is that in my viewpoint, at this time, doesn't mean I'm right, it means at this time, this stage of my area of investigation, is that you're not looking at 7 different races of aliens. Now, there may be 1 million of them out there. I'm not saying that. According to the ancient India literature, there are 100,000 races out there. There may be. I haven't been out there looking at 100,000 races. I don't know. I can give you the short version of it. And in most cultures, it's yin and yang, black and white. Even if you look at the biblical or the Sumerian or other views, there were these good fallen angels and bad fallen angels. It's that simple. There's a split. There's a schism. For as far as the alien is concerned, in my view, I don't think we're looking at 7 races of aliens. I think in my view, we're looking at 7 models. The DNA appears to be from here. These are models made and manufactured for the purpose of making you think certain things. And it's a really good plan. To me, it's brilliant. If that's true, and I don't have absolutes, I don't know. But at this point, it appears to be that to me. They've done DNA testing on the first Bigfoot, and they begged me to send my Bigfoot evidence to Nacogdoches to have those people look at it. I called and said, I don't want to. I'm not a Bigfoot investigator. They probably got better stuff than I do anyway. He said, please do it. So I called them and told them, and I said, we've got a urine sample and a fingernail from an adolescent, and I've got hair samples from far back as the late 1980s. Thank you, sir. We have everything we need. God bless America. I'm sorry to have troubled you. What did they find in the DNA samples they had? And according to George Knapp and other people, this was really done well. Everybody's excited about it. What they found is it's simian. It's an ape creature, whatever that is. And they found that it had modern human woman's DNA. How do you get modern human woman DNA inside an ape? It's called a transgenic. Somebody hatched, cloned, made, manufactured that just like they did the other 6, in my opinion. The DNA suggests that. I don't know that to be true. I'm just saying the evidence, medical evidence so far suggests that. We may find that something else comes up later and proves it wrong, and that could happen. So I'm not giving you absolutes here. I'm just telling you that there's a little thing in here. I showed some people. One of our abductees scratched the alien, Well, is that true or not? I don't know. That's her story. But I do have a sample. It does for us like it should, but it doesn't mean anything. This is just tech. This is not science. Tech indicates that we need to move forward with the science. So science needs to do the DNA testing and find out what that is. It may be her own skin. Somebody may be lying. I don't know. The important thing is what we find out of that. The DNA, to me, suggests that these entities all come from here, originally. That's just my opinion so far, in the DNA on the Bigfoot just absolutely underscored the whole thing. Where do you get Bigfoot? Where do you get simian DNA? Probably not from Venus, unless you want to get a big sunburn real quick. Where you get gray DNA? Probably, Nordic DNA is a good example. Probably not from Mars. Maybe, but probably not. The point is, every bit of that DNA that you see in those models, in my opinion, this is the cosmic Walmart. The DNA comes from here. Now somebody, in my opinion, takes it back out there, works it, remanufactures it it's called being transgenics, and you can create these chimera, and you can basically pull up anything you want. There's amazing, you're gonna hear some of this in the next 4 or 5 years. It's gonna scare you, what humans are doing. Now forget the alien. What humans are already doing, it's going to scare you. I guarantee you that's coming.
Well, that was actually really good. That kind of digressed a little bit from my question, but I'm glad you went along that direction as well, though. That was great. So I guess where I kind of want to lead you towards a little bit is the more like the screen memories and the programs. How many are those? Or how many are there, and how do they relate to the screen memories, etc.?
Okay, great question. Simply put, the alien, for whatever reason, I don't care if it's good, bad, or ugly, it doesn't matter. They install screen memories on people. I've known that since 1952 in my own event. And they try to cloud that with your event with some other. They are the first, what's the proper term? False memory syndrome that actually exists. The alien invented the whole system. They're brilliant at it. They can leave you with a dead relative, and we've got abductees that swear they just met their dead relative on the crab. And the other 7 witnesses standing there saw the alien in front of them, but they to this day swear that, no, that was my dead relative. That was the alien actually projecting the imagery in their consciousness. They use things in your consciousness especially to make you feel good or comfortable. That's why little children will always say things like, it was a giraffe or a little teddy bear, Dennis the Menace or whatever. That would show that it's something in your conscience makes you feel comfortable, because programming is going to begin when you're little. And screen memories, and I've talked to John Mack and all kinds of people about this, and basically screen memories are designed to hide true memory. And if you understand that, and I told John Mack this and others, and I mean it from my heart, it's not a criticism of anyone. If you hypnotize a person with a screen memory, and he said, and because he asked the question, John says, Derrel, why do I always get contactees and you always get abductees? I said, John, I actually get both. I said, some of them I get from you. What happens? I said, they end up finding out what really happened. I said, it's not an attack, it's a constructive criticism. He said, what do you think I'm doing wrong? I said, you're hypnotizing the person's screen memory. That's a false memory. I said, you hypnotize them 12 to 100 times. You'll get a different story every time. It'll be it's called a screen dream. And it'll go on forever. Those people were not abducted for 6 months at a time. What? And he's just like stunned. I said, Dr. Timmerman at Tulane University told you this 10 years ago. He told you to contact us and get this information right. I said, I know you got that letter because I have a copy of it. And he was really embarrassed. But my point is simply this. If the screen memory is, if that's part of the system, and it is, there is a reason. Maybe it's a good reason. I don't know. I don't know everything about these guys. But what I do know is that the memory that we're getting from these people, they cover it up. They want this stuff hidden. Now, when you work with someone therapeutically, and there's psychologists and psychiatrists here tonight, or was, And I'll tell you this right off the bat. When you're working with something and you have to look for the screen memory, you can't hypnotize that. If you do, you're going to get a screen dream. It'll go on forever in the school of higher consciousness or whatever. The second important thing is there are blocks inside these people. If you saw something you were not supposed to see, there'll be a block there. We have found as many as 3 blocks in a person. They're there for a reason, because you saw something you should not have seen. Now, I don't know whether it's good, bad, or what. I'm just telling you, we find this. It happens. It just does.
In the case that John worked on, the orb case that we show in our presentation, you have a young lady who ends up seeing what she describes as a large rabbit that says the top of the head comes up to the hood of the vehicle, and that's just the top of the head of this thing. So the rabbit is something that is within that environment that she lives, but this particular one that she sees, there's features to it that aren't consistent with those rabbits that she sees every day. But I think in this case, it's this thing, this entity there has this image in her head as something that's not threatening or not frightening. And, you know, as she knows that this thing, there's features about it, the size of it, the black eyes, that don't fit, you know, a normal rabbit. And I think you hear of this type of incidents and phenomenon happening in a lot of these abduction cases, and in other cases you have people who will have an experience and they'll be returned back to where they originated, but maybe their clothes is inside out and things like that. So it will, in a way, try to put that person back into the condition that they found them, yet that person knows that which way their clothes was before the incident. So anyway.
Yeah, we also found out that, and we're going to throw you one from left field here. We're still in touch with that young lady. We maintain contacts with a lot of the cases that we've done, and we check up on them every now and then. And that particular young lady that went through that, just a week ago, when it snowed over there in that area, was getting up early in the morning to go to work. As she drives out of her driveway, there's a corner house right there, and she described what she says, oh, there's a ghost of a little girl standing in the yard. Now this is 4:30 in the morning, it's still dark. What's this little girl standing in the snow for? And I asked her, I says, this is a little girl that you saw. Well, I saw her, she's standing out there. I looked close enough to see that there were no footprints in the snow. And I asked her, do you think that was a screenshot memory? And it's the same size as an alien would be. She says, oh my God, don't say that. She says, I can live with a ghost. And in some cases, we've talked to people that have been abducted. And it's interesting because you ask them, would you be willing to undergo regressive hypnosis? No, absolutely not. I don't want to know anything about it. And I've been told that for some people to find out what happened to them can actually destroy them. Just the knowledge is so traumatic that for them to understand exactly what happened would just destroy their lives. And so they're told, you don't do anything unless you're prepared for that. And earlier there was a question about the aliens and the DNA and stuff. me and Stan, our opinion is that these things are not from another planet, another solar system or galaxy. We think that they're interdimensional. And that's why we're seeing the same DNA from these things. And then we've had reports of UFOs just coming into existence, a loud pop, like something just popped into our dimension and then fade out again.
Same with the hauntings. There, in one of the haunting cases, you have these coins appear and stuff, and in the recordings at that time, you would actually hear a loud, really loud whooshing sound. And I think that in these cases, when you have something physical that's breaking that barrier, that plane, that they're just like, you know, with a fighter jet breaking the sound barrier, getting the sonic boom and that kind of thing. I think there's some type of correlation between that, because you get it with haunting cases when things will appear and move and so.
I love what you guys are doing. Keep it up. And thank you for getting the information out there. I really enjoyed the whole day. A question for Clifford. You ran out of time. You're talking about Zuni prophecies that had actually, many of them had already come to pass.
Yeah, well, one of the projects I did back in 1966 was where we took the people, the elders at that time, and of course the whole village had all these things that were passed on from previous generations, and but a lot of that had to do with the invasion of what is going on. 1962, I was told by the grandmothers of a person that was born that year that was going to be the president of the United States, going to start the destruction of the United States. And what was really kind of funny at that time was that when the grandmother said that he will be a black person. And Obama, I believe, was born around that time, 1962 or somewhere thereabouts. I was a senior in high school. Now, these things are not made up. I mean, how could they know? And the other thing, too, is that we have what they call the Zuni heaven. If you remember my slide, that's in Arizona, that's a Stargate. And a lot of the information that is received from there, we knew about 9/11 3 months before it happened. This is the shortest time span in the history of the Zuni Stargate projections, I guess, visions, if you want to call it that. And that time I was already in the Medicine Society, and there's a pilgrimage that's going on every 4 years. And so these are some of the prophecies. There's hundreds of them. And they all also relate with other Pueblo people, the Hopi and so on. But there are things that the upper beings, or even maybe the internal groups, tell the people, but of course humans don't listen. I've also been accused many times of the aliens trying to come through me, but they said that I don't listen to them. And so, I mean, this is done by many different groups that have that connection. But the prophecies talked about what we're going through right now. One of the things is that the land will fill up with all different types of people, that they'll start fighting. They talk about starvation. About 10 years, maybe a little longer than that, we're talking about this. My teachers, one of my medicine man teachers told me, he said, we're already in starvation. And I asked him, what do you mean by that? He said, well, if you go to a grocery store, there's no food, nutritious food. We're in starvation right now. All that is manufactured. And the way they used to describe it is that machine-made food. And so that's why there's a lot of imbalance of the human mind, body, soul. But these are the prophecies that have been passed on by through generations. And if you look at the other indigenous groups throughout the world, they have the same, depending on the culture, the same way with what the earth is going through right now. And scientifically, on the other side, on the other extreme, is that the North Pole is moving, the magnetic North Pole is moving 34 miles per year. And the Eskimos and the Alaska people, they keep telling them that the sun doesn't come up at the same place anymore. And because everything is relative in the universe, time is becoming shorter. So this is why the body is not keeping up with it. And when you start talking about the Hertz cycles, the frequency, it's all out of whack. And the mankind is also producing that because of what we're going through right now. I talked about the butterfly effect because it's a balance. Everything is in balance. It doesn't make any difference whether it's a physical balance, emotional balance, psychological. It doesn't make any difference which group. So these are the things that they talked about. And I think one of the things that was happening was that in the 1950s, the old people used to talk about cracking the rock roof. That's where we started the space program. If you recall that, an excuse of it because of remember the air conditioning fluid that they used to put in there, that was a cause of breaking the ionosphere. It has always been lies, and we do it to ourselves. There's no aliens or whatever come around. We always do it to some. So a lot of this information that is going on right now, in 1975, and you can look this up at the MUFON site of Phoenix. I did a presentation in September about what we're talking about, alien abductions. And this is why they sort of soften the way that they teach you, or they go through you. They actually showed us people in the car. That was about 1930s. We were in the car, and it's got the whole story in there. But these are the ones that, to soften that, probably that experience. The guy in the back the two guys were in the car that had already died. I did not know at that time. And the guy in the back of the car had a Raggedy Ann and a Raggedy Andy doll. And it was like about 1930s model car. Had no engine sound, and it had one speed, maybe about 5 miles an hour. So these are the things that when you experience those things, these are the things that they take that away from you and show you something that is not true. So there's a lot of things that I've gone through personally in a lot of cases. We never talked about it till just recently. And so a lot of people are now coming up with that also, because I think the reason is that the time is closing in on that. Right now we're at the logarithmic growth of information, and so there's a lot of things that will be occurring in the next 2 years. So
I want to make a comment real quick about time. John and I have traveled to places like Scotland, and I've talked to people, and there is a very common perception among all cultures and stuff about people perceiving time as speeding up, things going faster. When I was a kid, growing up in Oklahoma, in the summertime seemed to last forever, your summer school break. And today, my work week goes like that. And some people say, well, you're much older now, so it's a process of getting older. But I don't think so, because I've even talked to young people, teenagers and even children, that perceive that they perceive something with time speeding up. And I've thought about this, and you look at our galaxy, and the Earth is within that galaxy. Well, our galaxy is within a larger space that's bigger than our galaxy. The thing is, if you perceive a housefly that flies, let's say in this room, at 4 or 5 miles an hour, flies inside of somebody's van, it's still going that 4 or 5 miles an hour, but then that vehicle gets on a highway and it's driving 70 or 80 miles an hour. That fly that's inside the vehicle is now traveling the speed of that vehicle. Because if that vehicle gets into an accident, collision, hits something solid, the fly inside that is going to be killed by impacting. Just like when we get into a vehicle accident, we have the physical contact of hitting the inside of the dash, and then our internal organs hit, you know, our rib cage or whatever, and that's how we get injured. But I perceive that a lot like that. And sure, we have an atomic clock that can measure time that says, scientists will say, well, you know, it still measured the same amount of time. But that's the measurement there. It's the perception that there's something going on in a much larger, you know, so something to think about.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
That's good.
that's a theory of relativity.
Yeah.
And it's too complex for me to do it. I barely passed physics.
I want to address time, if I may. I talked a little bit in one of my presentations. Yeah, a little time, small now. This was a real event. My wife was there, the entire martial arts school. We had a group of masters show up from real martial art masters, not this stuff, some of the stuff you do on TV. And there was one in particular, he was a young master, 7th degree black belt. Now, this is real Japanese karate. These people, we had to slow with the camera, we had to slow it down to see his hands move. This guy is just unbelievable. Wow, we were so honored that he would be there. Our instructor was a 4th dan, and I was a 1st dan, and my wife was 1st dan black belt, and they said, he told me, our instructor said, you're going to be promoted to 2nd dan. I said, he told me that the night before, because I know he'd already talked to them, and they were, you know, you're ready for another rank, and I said, I'll never be a 2nd dan. He said, you will. Of course, he didn't know that I knew he had already talked to him. I said, it's not on my timeline. I will never, ever be a 2nd dan. And I'll tell you the story, it actually has relevance, and it may make sense to some of you, because this has about time in 2 ways. Number one, my timeline doesn't have that on it. You know what I'm talking about. That's number one. It's not what I wish, it just isn't there. I mean, look at my timeline, it isn't there. Sorry, it's not there. So, my wife is standing next to me, and anyway, the 7th dan walks out, and I mean, he is just it. I'm telling you, we're so impressed with this guy. It's unbelievable. The guy is just magnificent to watch him move. It's like ballet on steroids, super fast and beautiful, beautiful to watch. So anyway, he stops in front of me and he says, "Dai senpai," which means number one older brother of the school. You're the right hand of the instructor. I said, "Hey," and he said, "I want you to hit me right here." He said, "You know, Nitin." He said, to block and to punch. He said, "Today I will teach you Santen." The reason that was important to me is I've never had an instructor in martial arts, ever. I'm 4th dan now. I still haven't had an instructor. I told you that about the UFO stuff, how we're connected in these various different ways. And it's not you're smarter, bigger, better. It's not about that. It's about the way you process data. It's certainly not intelligence. I'll give you a hint. So I didn't qualify in that one. So he stands in front of me and says, "So I want you to do that." And I said, "Okay." And of course, the guy you can put a blindfold on him. He can hear your movement. Yet you have no chance, not a prayer. So right off the bat, I go, pow, and hit him right in the chest. He looks down. It reminds me of the guy in Apocalypse Now. The spear goes through. He says, "A spear," and he's looking. They're sitting over there. All the other 4th, 5th, 3rds, like, and my instructor's like, "Oh my God!" They're going like, "We've had it." So Anyway, he can't figure out how I hit him. I can't figure it out because this guy is 10 times faster than I am. So he said, well, let's do it again. I said, okay. And pow, I hit him the second time, same spot. He never got his arm up to block me. My wife says, anyway, long story short, they went over and my instructor called him over and he says, you've been promoted to 3rd degree black belt. I said, I told you the second dan was never on my time. He promoted me 10th if you want to, but second isn't on my timeline. And I understand that. And if you understand the timeline therapy, you know what I'm talking about. The second thing is my wife asked the best question. How did you do that? I said, nobody even asked. I said, everybody was embarrassed. It's like the emperor's got no clothes on. You don't ask that. I mean, my God, this guy is, you have to slow the camera down to watch him. Is that good? Is that bad? He can do this blindfolded. What's the point? The point is, I said several things, sweetie. I said, number one is Oyama, the guy who killed the bulls barehanded, said the power of a curve is far more powerful than linear technique. Linear technique's the only way you're going to get him, and you can't even possibly approach him. So I said I used a circular punch. It's a slight curve. She said, still kind of doesn't answer. I said, that's true. I'll tell you, I'll give you the rest of the story, sweetie. You alter time. My time was different than his. Otherwise, you tell me how it happened. And the second question, the second answer I gave my wife was, I said, well, I told her a story about Oyama and what he said and everything. And she was very impressed with that. And says, okay, and it's what else? And I said, well, sweetie, I said, he told me to hit him there. This is something, the highest, best ever you've seen. He just told you what to do. That's a suggestion. It's a powerful suggestion. He didn't ask me if I wanted to. He told me to do it. So what did I do? Twice. That was the end of that story. And I said, the third answer, sweetie, is simply this. I said, you were standing next to me. You didn't actually think I was going to let that guy get to me. And so I have this huge problem of always showing off in front of her. Always have since we were kids. She's been married 47 years and I'm still showing off. I just love her to death. Couldn't pay for that. Time. You're taking up all my time now.
Doctor Who would say that it's wibbly wobbly, timey wimey stuff.
The thing you just described is called a brachistochrone effect in mathematics.
Correct.
The fastest distance between 2 points is this curve, and it's half a cycloid.
Well, a lot of it too is we've been programmed to think a certain way, believe it or not. You've been programmed to believe, in our history, in Navajo history, Navajos were bad and they were raiding and stealing cattle. And so we had to round them up and take them over to Fort Sumner. Did you know that the Navajo version of that is that gold had just been discovered in Prescott? And so the government says, we need to get those Navajos off the land because an assayer from the military said, there's gold up there. Let's get all those Navajos off. They spent all kinds of time testing, and they found out sandstone doesn't have gold in it. 4 years later, they said, let them back. So the perception is different. If you think in terms of that fist, instead of propelling it forward, what if you allowed it to impel forward and be drawn toward the target? It's different. So you have to change that thinking. But we're so programmed, and even today our media tells us what to think. If you listen to BBC all the time, you get a whole different viewpoint on the world. But they want us to think a certain way. And it's up to us to decide how we're going to think. And that's the hardest thing to do.
It's going to collapse.
Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Great stuff.
I am just, not only am I blown away by all the information I'm getting, but I'm looking all around me. And it does lead to a question, I promise you. But it's just, you guys were talking about, you know, how everything is a cycle and time is relative. And I'm seeing more and more, and we're talking about DNA and star people, and it's true, we do have star people. My parents and my grandparents, and yes, Native American from the Mexican side. But thank you so much. Like, I am just red orb, right? Everything is a sign. I've been seeing it everywhere, especially when you guys are talking, and it's because of my past generation. They have been leaving clues to my generation, and it's true because we are so unbalanced right now. We have messed with the butterfly wings, and our star seeds. That's what we are. I guess our millennials and the ones that are coming afterwards. They're the ones who are gonna start restoring the land, and we've seen it in all the signs. And if you guys look down, y'all guys see. To me, that's time right there, and you can see that it's running out a little bit. If you see how it's like merging together, it's red and it's tan and it's brown. It's this. We're trying to ground, and because of y'all, if y'all guys see the media that's going on, everything you guys gave us, Childhood's End, the Dome, all the media, the music that's coming out right now, everything, let's be awake. You guys have been trying to wake us up in one form or another, and chaos has been taken over, and there will be balance. And I feel it, and right now it's fear and excitement, and I have to choose between fear and excitement. And I'm like incredibly excited right now because the vibration here is so high. I'm trembling, and I am rambling, and it's true because just not so long ago, the Bird Box, you know, it's people, it's like the older generation, you know, they're trying to open everybody's eyes, and they're not ready to see. So what happens? Like you guys are saying, it's the screen picture. They can't see over that. It's like that. We're taking the people who are awake and they want to awake the other people, and they're not doing it right. It's true. There will be a destruction of that person.
Do you have a particular number that sticks in your mind? It's your number, so to speak.
Yes.
What
4.
is it? Huh?
4.
4.
The 4 brothers.
Does anybody else have a number that? What's your number?
3 and 4.
4. 4.
6.
4.
6. 4. Several of you got 4s and 3s. In contact phenomena, I don't care whether you're abducted, it doesn't matter to me. There are certain numbers that we get stuck with. And I want to comment on 2 things. Number 1 is that number is kind of important, and it'll show up, mine's 11. And some people ask, is that important to you? I said, I was born on 111. So maybe that has something to do with it. But we'll be driving down the road, and my wife said, you're not going to believe it's 111. It's 222. It's 333. It's always that multiple for us. Now, for you, it's 4s, it's 3s, it's 7s, whatever it is. And we find that many abduction accounts started again, 111, 211, 333. And some of the books that are written, you'll see that in there. Look at the abduction accounts of an author where he's investigating people, and you'll often see these are multiples of the 11s. The second thing, you mentioned awe and fear and stuff like that. With abductees, I'm going to give you a valuable piece of information. If you want to learn about the alien, you have to get past the awe or the fear. If you're stuck in the awe, oh my God, I'm going to go higher consciousness, or you're stuck in the fear, I can't move, I don't know what to do, they're going to kill me. You have to, if you get past all that, you can actually hear him think. And when he turns you off and he sees you're thinking, ask me how I know that. This happens. These events. If he'll turn you off because you're letting him in the conversation. When he turns you off, you can turn yourself back on, and he doesn't have to know that. These are skills you can develop.
In a lot of haunting cases, you'll have these negative entities that they want to try to frighten you. They want to get that reaction, startle effect out of you. But you don't have to give them that. You don't have to. You have a lot of power if this stuff is occurring in your home, you have the power to tell this stuff to get out.
That's right.
And it's, a lot of times, it's as simple as that. Telling it, you know, being forceful, powerful, demanding that it leave, and it will. Because each of you, we all have this power within us. We don't have to cower, we don't have to run from it. I won't give it that. And me and John won't. You know, even in, I was talking about some of the evidence we showed out there earlier today. We have a large butcher knife that in one of the cases I was dealing with, where this butcher knife flew out of a kitchen wooden block where you keep all the knives. It flew out of that and flew through a grapefruit about 5 feet away. And one of the investigators was just almost traumatized from that. And I said, you know, I said, if this thing wanted to hurt us in this situation, it could have, and it didn't do that. So, you know, you don't have to be afraid of these things. You can stand up and tell it, no, I'm not going to run.
So my question is, point blank, because again, we were left with so many clues, and we can, if we do decide to open our eyes and actually see it the correct way, like you guys said, not excitement and fear, but with actual calm, and not only rationalization, but intuition as to what you're actually perceiving. Because it's true, it's all about perception as well. And my question is, because we know there is this unbalance, have you guys looked, like, of course, looked up how to balance? How can we bring about that balance? How can we bring about that prosperity with the coming generations? Our generation is not impatient, but like you guys said, we do feel that time really is relative, and we can make things be instant. We can manifest it.
One of the things that we as people need to do, first off, is we need to be patient. And we don't have patience anymore. Coming down here 100 miles north, we ran into all kinds of cars that were just flying by us in the rain. Several of them almost hit us. You have to be patient.
That's a part of that balance that we're talking about.
One of the things that we found out, and here we go, another physics lesson. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So we think that this curve that we're on is so terrible, and it's gonna, the sine wave is gonna come back, everything's gonna go back to normal. No. It's gonna go down the other direction equally as far and come back. And you're gonna see this over and over and over. So yeah, good times, good times, good times, oh, bad times, bad times, bad times, equal amount. Until it self-balances, because that's how nature is. It will balance. Also, when it comes to fear, we've been again programmed to fear. You know, what are they telling us in the government? Oh, fear the border, because everything evil is coming from them. What if we're trying to put that border up so we can keep our people in? You ever think of that? You know, maybe we're going to go down there and contaminate them. Also, we talk about fight or flight. Do you know that there's two other components to that? There's fight, flight, posture, or submit. So you can posture, you can be like a rooster, puff your chest out, stomp around and make everybody fear you. That's what a lot of the kids do today. You can submit and roll over like a dog and show your belly and say, don't hurt me. You can fight or you can run. So there's 4 components to that. That's what we teach our guys in firearms. You know, don't posture, just take care of business. And when it comes to fear, a lot of people ask me and Stan, are you fearful? When you do a SWAT call, you stack on the door, all your officers in a row. You go in, If there's any shooting, if the guy in front of you goes down, you step over him and keep going. You don't even, you don't do like they show on TV, oh my God, let me get him and drag him out. No. You go in and take care of the business you need to.
That's right.
And you don't think about the fear until after. You do the job, you take care of what needs to be done, because if you don't do it, nobody else will. And we've been there so many times, and we do the same thing. We wouldn't be really good TV subjects, because we wouldn't be over there going, oh my God, like you see on TV with these guys. We'd be going, okay, Stan, make sure you get that evidence tagged, make sure you get it photographed, make sure you get it measured. When Stan told you about those 65 coins, he had to measure from 2 walls and find exactly where that thing fell. He had to photograph every one of them. He had to pick it up and put it in an evidence bag. He had to mark that evidence bag with a number. Over and over 65 times. Poor guy.
I want to make a comment regarding what you were saying. And I think the universal thing is to show each other love. The human race has gotten to where we're so afraid to show love to each other and compassion. And for me, growing up, I grew up in Northeast Oklahoma, and I was raised by my mother, my aunt, and my grandmother. And we were taught to show compassion and love to other people, regardless of what their religious beliefs are, regardless of where they come from, what their thoughts are. We're all the human race. And just showing that compassion and love to each other. I've felt that here in talking with people. And it's not hard. Love is something that is within us. We're not going to run out of it. We're not going to run out. So, anyway, that's my comment.
Very good.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions. The first one, you mentioned that people didn't want to be regressed because they didn't want to really know. So what percentage of persons that are hypnotized remember what they say during hypnosis, and what percentage don't? So that's question number one. And then the second thing is, when you talk about coming from a different dimension, are you talking about people in this time space vibrating at a different rate? Or are you talking about people that are coming maybe from the future back? Or when you say not coming from this dimension, define that exactly.
I don't know. No, we don't have those kind of data numbers, because we're not allowed to see what happens with each regression. However, we have seen people that we've talked to, that we've interviewed, when they've been asked, would you like to have a regression, it's startling the reaction you get. Like, oh my God, no. There's it's almost like there's something blocking that. And they have this absolute raving fear of finding out. And so, we can't account for that. I mean, most people would say, I'd like to know what's happening. But we have people that just suddenly, violently tell us, no, absolutely not. I don't want to know.
So you can't assure them that they won't remember what they say under hypnosis?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we can't assure them that it's going to be hunky-dory, that everything's going to be,
No, not what their story is, but that they won't remember. That they would have to listen to the tape in order to know.
We don't know what they would, what the effect would be.
Okay, I'll help you with
And then the second question,
interdimensional
interdimensional.
vibration
we
from the
really-
future.
Yeah, again-
Are they here now? I mean,
again, this is in the realm of speculation, but it's the best, it fits. And it accounts for hauntings, it accounts for the skinwalker. What if the skinwalker can slip into this other dimension, travel a vast distance, and pop back out?
It's the pennies.
You know, it also accounts for the UFO suddenly appearing. It accounts for Bigfoot, who we've tracked for miles, who the tracks disappear in trackable
Okay, so
ground.
is it a change of vibration, or are they vibrating at a higher rate?
It could be a combination of a whole bunch of
Combination.
things. Because I don't claim to be a scientist that could tell you, you know, one way or the other that this is the effect. And I'm not privy to the information that the Large Hadron Collider is collecting on that stuff. We do know that they've been looking at it quite a bit, and we don't know what they're coming up with.
I know of a Fish and Wildlife personnel that swears he's seen what he describes as like a pterodactyl. And he swears by this. And we know, based on fossil evidence, you know, there's stuff that existed in Australia of this bird that had 20 feet wingspan and stuff. So maybe what he is seeing is something from the past, something that was there, something that did exist. There's fossil evidence of it. But in some way, because of time and dimensions, this bird is somehow being witnessed in our time, in our physical world, and then all of a sudden it's back wherever it originated. You know?
And you're not surmising how that happens? You're just
No.
saying it does happen?
No, I'm saying it's a possibility that it happens. Because like I said, there is fossil evidence that this thing did exist at one time.
And interestingly enough, that gentleman studied wildlife biology. So, you know, he's very interested in those kind of things, and he said this thing was absolutely monstrous. It was huge.
There's been several sightings of pterodactyls around Austin and the Hill Country.
Yeah.
Actually here, purple or dark colors.
I'd like to comment about the pterodactyl, like, I saw one of them with a witness with me. Anyway, long story short, we were doing some testing on some UFO stuff out in Saratoga area, northeast of Houston, about 40 miles away. And we're out there, it's kind of in the swamp area and everything, you know, we're just doing some recordings and different things like that. And to our shock and amazement, something's sitting in the tree out there, and it just opens its wings, and I'm sitting there, I can't believe what I'm looking at, and I look over at her, and she's like, we got her mouth open. I said, I'm sure I didn't see what I saw. What did you see, if you saw anything? She said, I saw a pterodactyl. What did you see? While we were looking at it, I had a video cam on, the old VHS, and I was filming it. I'm hoping to God that I still have not recorded over that old film, because I have tons of old films we did. And if I still have it, it's on that film. But I'm telling you what we saw, and I told her, I said, well, it had to be, there's no question, it was just an oversized, gigantic crane. It's pterodactyl. And she is not given to, that's not, I want to tell you two things about birds. That's number one. Number two, when I came out of the military, 1971, March 71, when I ETS got out, my wife and I went out with 22 pistols. We plink out in the desert, go shooting out till we lived in New Mexico for 13 years. We got shooting and hanging out and everything. And I saw something under the railroad trestles, not far from the road, toward El Paso, near Oro Grande. And I saw something move under, and it's real bright out there in the desert, but it's dark under that trestle. And I saw some kind of movement. It's like, what? And I thought, what's a hobo or something out there? You know, a vagrant or something. You know, what they be doing out here? something big was dark in there, and I kind of walk over toward that, and all of a sudden something moved with huge wings. I rarely ever tell this because I'll tell it to my native friends because they get this. Some of you are going to think you guys have been smoking or doing something, you know, peyote or something. I have never done drugs. I don't even drink, but I am thirsty. I do need to drink Dr. Pepper, but that's it. My point is that what came out from under that trestle was a giant eagle. Has anybody ever seen the movie Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
Guahil? It was that big. It took a couple of flaps of the wings and it was on top of me. I mean, it was right there. And my wife didn't see it. I didn't say a word. I pulled my rifle. I could have shot its eyes out. I mean, but I guarantee you the .22 rifle would have been useless, and that thing could have impaled me, killed me, and carried me off without the slightest problem. And I lowered my rifle and all that and everything, and just, you know, here it is. You know, this is it. And it flew on past. My wife never saw it. She's sitting right over there. She didn't see it, but she saw the shadow of it. So if I'm hallucinating, the shadow of my hallucinations on the ground. She saw it as it took off. My point is, and of course, native friends always ask the question, you know, is that significant to you? Well, yes, it is. My native name is Summerhawk. It means the hawk from the sun, or it's golden eagle is what it is. And so that was significant to me. Does that have any reference, any real bearing on reality in that event? I don't know. All I know is that thing was big enough, it could have easily killed me and carried me off. It was, I've never seen anything so big. It was a lot bigger than that pterodactyl. I don't know what it was. I don't know how it got there. I have no clue, but it was real, and I guarantee you it's, thing was monstrous. That thing, I mean, the claws on that thing were so huge, and it flew right at me, and you could have just as easily killed, yeah, that'd been it. I'd been gone. And she'd just been looking up and just seen the blood or something, that'd been it. It'd been hard to explain all that, but those are my two bird stories. One of them I may have on film. If I do, I promise you I'll make it available to everybody, especially these Navajo investigators.
We'll give you a bird story after a while here.
All right.
My question is about Bigfoot. It seems like you hear two different stories. Could be malevolent, excuse me. Could, you know, either it's a good feeling or a bad feeling. We have a ranch in Oklahoma. We have mountain lions, bobcats, pigs, some sort of black large cat that's been seen on our ranch. I've heard something in the woods, and it sounded like an ape. I don't know what that was. My question is, what are your feelings about Bigfoot, and what noise have you heard it make?
We've heard it make screeching noises, very, very loud screeching that you can hear from a long way away. Pounding on the timbers.
Wood knocking?
Yeah, wood knocking. One of our friends set up a game camera, and what he got, believe it or not, was a twig numerous times in the picture. You know what that thing did? It took a twig, a little tiny stick, and it went up on the side of the camera, and it just went like this until all the pictures stopped.
Oh, funny.
Well, this sounds like intelligence. It knows the camera.
Yeah, it knew where the camera was. So, you know, we're not talking about some dumb animal. Yeah, thank you. We're talking about something that actually has some intelligence.
Yeah.
The Navajos have a story about Bigfoot back in the early 1800s when their ropes were made out of horsehair. In Coyote Canyon, which is just north of Gallup, they actually had one out there. And the Navajos got on horseback. They got their lariats that were made out of horsehair. They rode around it and they roped it. That thing, and it was roped by several horse riders, sat down on the ground. And it spoke Navajo to them.
Wow.
And it said, if you'll take me up to Mesa Verde and let me go. I won't come back this way again. So they rode with it between them, all the way up to Mesa Verde in Colorado. And they released it up there. This is what the medicine men told us happened in Navajo history. Navajo is an oral tradition. One of the things that's very important about it is you don't embellish it, you don't take away from it.
That's right.
You say it exactly
That's right.
as it happened.
That's right.
And so they told us Bigfoot goes a long way back. And, you know, that was the story we were told because we were investigating him. In other words, they were telling us these things are intelligent. We actually, for our department, we had a unofficial no-shoot policy. Not because we wanted Bigfoot to live out there and be happy. We didn't want our officers to try to shoot one and find out it was a guy in a suit trying to scare some kids. You know, that would be pretty bad, guy in a zipper suit. So we said, you will not, unless it's attacking you and your life is in danger, you will not shoot at it. And that's how we left it.
And there's been incidents where I know somebody ran into one of these things and it was a person that was in a suit, you know, with a zipper, that killed this person, so it does happen, yeah.
A little comment about a Bigfoot. A guy asked me this last summer, so I'd like to go down to Midland, Texas with me. I said, I lived in Midland for years. And he says, we had a Bigfoot incident down there. And I said, cop hat on here for a minute. How do I know that's true? He said, well, I need for you to go down and I said, I'm not going down there to validate your case that I didn't see. What makes me want to go down there? I'm paying for everything. I said, you're not answering the question. He said, oh, you want to see the film? I said, I do. And sure enough, you got to understand the temperature out there in midsummer, out in the oil patch, about 115, 120 degrees. It's so hot that when people drive by in trucks, they check on you, are you okay? Because you may not be. In the next hour, another one comes by, you may be out there, you could die. I mean, I'm telling you, I kid you not. It's that hot. So his son and another guy are out there a couple of weeks before, and it had been raining and everything, but it's still really hot. It's horrible, humid. And there's a mud hole out there. They can't get across. They're going to have to back up and go back out. They're going to quit. They shouldn't be out there. It's just too wet. And I see somebody or something on the side at the top of the hill, little ridge, little hill there. And I'm looking at the film carefully and having it looked at and so on. And I'm telling you, whatever that thing is, it's at least 7.5 feet tall. It's in the darkest. If it's in a suit, you're going to be dead in about 2 minutes. I promise you. I was out there in light clothes and my iPhone froze up. It was so hot. You just turn the phone off because you can't use it. It's that hot. And if you're in a suit like that out there, I promise you, you'll be dead in 5 minutes. No more than 5. You'll never make it. So whatever it was is there, and it's watching them for the longest time. It's just not concerned or anything. And they're all freaking out and they're screaming and hollering. At first they think it's a joke, and then they realize, oh my gosh, this thing, whatever it is, it's big and it's real. I have the rights to show the film, and I will to anybody who wants to see it. I told them that's the only way I would be involved in this. So I went out there, measured, and did all kinds of stuff, and got what approximate height, and I'll help you with that. But only because I've already seen the film, and I have a pretty good idea. Whoever that is really, it's like my investigator, is about 6.5 foot tall back there. I mean, this thing's about 7.5 feet tall, and that thing is monstrous. That thing must weigh at least 400 or 500 pounds out in the middle of the desert. I mean, you're going to die. And there's nowhere, you know where it takes off? It just takes off and goes out in the desert. That's not a good idea. You're going to get yours. And the big question I had for him, and I said, I got a big one for you. He said, what's that? I said, what's Bigfoot doing out here in the middle of the desert? He said, well, it's got a water supply over here, it's got a lake. I said, you're not answering my question. what's he doing out here in the middle of the desert? He said, well, 'cause I want to know what his thoughts were. And he said, well, what do you think? And I said, in my opinion, and it's strictly a guess, somebody dropped him off here, and he'll do his thing here for whatever purpose it is, and probably pick him up and take him off somewhere else, put him back in the mountains or wherever. That's good. In my opinion, some of these, this stuff is kind of contrived. It's not. These are not accidental sightings. These things are smart. Things are going on. There's other programs going on we're not privy to. We just noticed that thing's smart. It could bounce a 200-pound rock off your head if it wanted to, and it's not doing that. It may scare you, may shake your car, or who knows. But things like this to me are fascinating because, as I mentioned to some of you before about the Skinwalker Ranch, they had a dinosaur prints up there in the ground. And like, where do you get a dinosaur? This is not in rock, it's like in the ground. How do you get a dinosaur up there? How do you have a pterodactyl fly around? They're kind of not available, I mean, last I heard, they're hard to find. But in the December 8th, December 11th, mass abduction, 1992, remember my engineer, got an engineer here, he was there, and so were 7 other people coming out of this massive room in this craft that was so big that, and we have a film, we think of it. They're coming out there, and they see, and they told him not to look, not to peek or anything. Of course, I said, Dale, you peeked. And he said, I did. I said, well, did you see anything? He said, yeah, I saw a platypodon. Platypodon, like an ancient elephant. And they got one at the Houston. You go down there and they got a giant Carchargton megalon eating a platypodon. It's really interesting. It's the same thing. Thing's kind of big, and he described it in great detail, draws pictures of it and everything. And I said, anything you notice about any of that was interesting? He said, other than the fact that he said, Derrel, there were dinosaurs up there in this massive room. He said the craft was just beyond huge. And I said, well, what interested you about it? And he said, I don't think any of them were dead. I think every one of them are in suspended animation. All you need to do is pick one of those. If you want to be a UFO alien, want to have some fun with the natives down there, that'd be us, whoever we are. Put that pterodactyl down there, turn him loose, let him prowl around for a while, and then take him back, and put him back in suspended animation. They won't be any wiser. That works for me. It's possible he could be from another time, another dimension. All that's possible. I don't know. I haven't been there. But for me, that makes more sense because we've already got witnesses that have already seen him that are in there somehow or another in suspended animation. If the story's true. If.
In the haunting case, I witnessed the coins there. So science might say, well, taking a solid physical object like that, it's not possible for that to happen. Mm-hmm. But I repeatedly seen it. So I know that these coins had to originate from somewhere into our physical world where we were at, falling in the middle of the floor from nowhere. None of us were there to generate, that to happen. So just like what you see with, let's say, Star Trek, where they teleport or whatever. Is that what's going on? Somebody's causing that to happen. And why? Who knows? But if that solid metal coin can do that, why can't these other things do the same thing?
Thank you for being so patient with us. Your question?
My question.
Derrel, I think about 2 years ago, you did a presentation on the difference between angels and aliens. And everybody there was just really fascinated by it. So I would like to know the panel's take on angels versus aliens in our history and now.
Like I said earlier, we are programmed. We look at everything through a filter. That filter sometimes is religious in nature. It's cultural. it relies on our own experience. And sometimes when we see things, we close our eyes and say it didn't happen. There are numerous possibilities as far as the idea of angels. And if you study even in the scriptures, there's a whole doctrine of angels. And we won't get into all the specifics about why or how for, or whatever, because we could be sitting here all night and never really get anywhere. Because when it comes to those kind of opinions, you're not going to change anybody's mind. There is a reason for every religion that's out there. Most religions want us to be good people, whether we can do it on our own or whether we need help. But notice that it's this idea that we need help and we have to ask for it. We're all in that condition. We all need help. Biblically, we're born into sin, if you read scripture. So, we have all these, if we were in a different culture, we might look at it through a different filter. The problem is like we said, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. Yes, there's evil in the world. Yes, there's good in the world. It has to balance, and it will balance itself, but both are necessary. Even though we don't like it, even though it can hurt us. We exist. There's nothing out there that says you must be happy and satisfied with your life. Life is life. Whether we're injured, whether we're sick, whether we, whatever things that happen to us, we deal with that on a daily basis. It's how we deal with this stuff. Everybody's afraid of dying. This is why we have aerobics and all these diets and everything, because everybody wants to live forever. That's not possible. I look at my life and I think, man, I've lived about 3 lifetimes already of adventure. And I look at death as a stepping stone to another adventure.
It is.
So
I've had a near-death experience, and it is.
right, but it's how you view these things. You can be fearful and go, oh my God, I'm so afraid, I don't want to die. So, I guess in a roundabout way, that's the answer. I'm avoiding the question, because I don't want you mad at me, because if you're right, I could be in big trouble.
No, but you dance beautifully.
In one of the illustrations we have in our PowerPoint, we have that picture of kind of the earth, and this is the Navajo creation story. It shows these different levels. And in the Navajo creation story, the Navajo people come from these lower levels into our physical world through these different planes. And in different levels, there's description of these beings that some of them are described like us having a human-like body, but let's say they have like an insect, a grasshopper's head or something. So maybe what they're describing there is these alien beings from another dimension. And I was once told in one of these conferences, there was a scientist from Mexico who said, Stan, in looking at your PowerPoint and everything, he said, these things that you've experienced, whether it's ghosts or Bigfoot or aliens, he said each one of these exists in different planes of existence. And at times they'll cross over, just like most of us have this idea that We all have this life force, this energy inside of us, whether you call that a soul or spirit or. And when we pass from our living body, into that other existence, that energy is going somewhere. It doesn't just vanish and not exist anymore. So maybe that's what's happening there, is that with all of these, whether it's, and he said angels, the scientists explained angels and demons and all of these things are found in different planes.
Oh, okay.
Makes sense.
I'd like to do one little comment on the angel thing. And again, in saying this, we're in the philosophical. We're not, nobody's going to prove anything to any. I mean, this is your viewpoint. This is philosophical. We have, in rare cases, and like I said, I've got 2,000 cases worldwide for over 50 years, so I'm kind of dating myself. I'm older than dirt, and I know it. And I told you before, I told them it was wrong color the first time we made it. So they changed it. The point being that we have very rare cases, several, that angelics showed up. They were not alien. How do you know that? Well, we definitely know what the alien looks like, what he is, and I mean, when he's there, he does certain things. It's pretty clear that gray or that whatever it is does certain things. That's him. Any fear or whatever your response is to it. When he comes, he does his thing. He does his job. In the rare cases, and it's rare, that something angelic shows up, he can't get out of there fast enough. And I'm not going to get into philosophy about it or even the cases themselves. I'm just going to tell you that that's the report of the people who we've talked to, and in my own home where this has happened. That's all I can say, and you can say it's a bunch of bull or what. It's philosophy. That's viewpoints. I can't prove that to anybody, and I don't care to. It doesn't matter. It's where you're at, where your headspace is at, and how you want to perceive or approach this spiritual aspect of this stuff. It's just not provable. Don't know how you do that. But I will give you a hint. Every one of them have a different signature. If you don't know what a signature is, you have to guess.
Thank you.
I want to thank all four of you for being here. I could ask questions all night, but I'm going to narrow it down to a couple things real quick. With all this, it seems like every day there's new news or new information about a possible, and the NASA breaking the secret space program and stuff. Have you seen any evidence, or are you even willing to look at evidence that maybe these implants and these other things are human, part of these programs? And do they have, if you have an implant, does it have to be ripped out to be confirmed that it's in one of these types of implants and not something else? Does that make sense?
Sure. The implants that we've looked at and recovered out of 25 surgeries, not everything we pulled out of these people were implants. Everybody loves to think it is, but it isn't. They're very rare. I don't care what anybody tells you. Implants are extremely rare. We do have several cases that we think might be possibly intelligence, government, or corporate involved. We have several cases. I still haven't seen the evidence yet, so it doesn't mean anything to me. It's a story. If we surgically remove these, if I find, because I told the doctors this in 1994, 250 surgeons, so I did a presentation before we ever did a surgery. These 4 things are going to happen if these are alien in origin. If they're not there, and we find this thing we'll find that these objects are not native to the human body. If we find out that this thing's got a signature on it, like a code number or whatever, copyright manufactured by, that's not alien. I said the alien stuff is going to be easy to spot. The corporate or intelligence or whatever stuff, it's going to be easy to spot. You can spot human technology for a mile. I have some x-rays of human technology. I love to show in my demonstrations because you can spot this stuff for a mile. And the stuff that is alien in origin, the isotopic ratios of the implants are not going to be from here.
There could still be possibly all kinds of things are possible. Could the intelligence people, all kinds of things are possible. Could be anything, but the fact is that a lot of the stuff that in my opinion, you're going to see, if it's intelligence or corporate or whatever related, there's a real problem there. If you get caught, if a federal judge or anybody, a magistrate finds out that I've got a piece of object that came out of somebody with a code on it or something that's human related, and I'll give you one actual case. This is a true story. A NASA scientist, he's a friend of mine, he's also an abductee. He's supposed to be here, and he's not. A typical abductee. One night he was sitting there at his house, true story, hand of God. And he notices he's got a little lamp and everything, and he looks up at his light, and he's a scientist. I mean, what's wrong with that light bulb? And he gets looking at it, and there's a device inside the light bulb, besides the light filament. I said, oh my God, please tell me, what did you do with that? Well, I called the FBI. I said, I wouldn't do that. What did they do? He said, well, they kept it. I said, and then? Did you check on it? Did you yes? I said, what did they say? He said, what light bulb? The good news is, the event happened a couple of years later. He called me and said, you're not going to believe this. I said, great. But typical abductee, they destroy evidence, hide evidence, or ignore it. That you're programmed to do that. I'm telling you, it's true. I said, what happened? He said, well, I found another one of those, it's really weird, something else in the light bulb. I said, where is it at? And he said, somewhere in when I put it in the shed, and it's been there for, I said, well, thank you for telling me right away. He says, why do I do that? Great question. And it's still there. And I can't get it. I said, I'll come over, I will hire people, we'll unload your garage, we'll do everything, we'll photograph it, film it, check it, analyze it, give it back to you, whatever. What do you need? No, I don't want to do that. I'm just sitting here stunned. That, I promise you, has nothing to do with anything alien. Somebody's listening in to his conversations on purpose, for a reason. He is an abductee. I don't think they listen to all these abductees. I just don't think they care. I really don't. But I'm telling you, somebody like him, and I've told people this on Art Bell. Because a guy called me one night on an Art Bell. I decided to have some fun one night, and it was a stupid mistake. I shouldn't have done it. I decided to, on an Art Bell interview, to just drop a bunch of code words that I used back in the company. Just see if anybody's listening. No one else would understand. They don't get it. Not unless you're in the company and you're listening to Art Bell. A guy called on the phone the next day, and he was almost in tears. He said, please help me. And I said, I'd help any abductee except you. And he said, why? I said, what you have just described to me is so far above my pay grade. I have a top secret clearance. I couldn't wash your shoes. I couldn't polish your boots. Get off the phone right now. Save your career. He said, but I need you to listen to me carefully. It breaks my heart to tell you this. They don't give a hoot about me, but they do give a hoot about who's calling me. Get off the phone while you can. Please do that. Broke my heart to tell him that. But I'm telling you, he was in a listening post so high that I'm telling you, it's scary stuff. And it breaks my heart to not to help this one guy. But we got 250 hits. I told my cryptologist was my website guy at the time. And he called me the next day cussing. I said, hey, don't talk trash to me. He said, what did you do last night? And that's why I did that. He said, don't ever do that again. He said, we got 250 hits from the intelligence community. I said, what? He said, 3 of them were for inside of the White House. How do I know that? Hillary Clinton and Bill sent a lady, I think it was Huma Abedin, I don't know, she's a very pretty young girl, and to meet me and 2 doctors in California, and they wanted to know if I was interested in funding from the government. I said, no, thank you. Not interested. Thanks for the offer. I said, these people are going to prison. This will get you in a lot of trouble. This is bad. This is not the way you do stuff. This gets people hurt, and I'm not interested. She came twice. I did send videos to Bill and Hillary. I didn't vote for them. That's not the point. If it's about disclosure, I'm all for it. It's not politics. This is us. This is humanity now. And I sent it to them. They love the implant videos and all that. They just love this stuff. But still, I just wouldn't accept the money. I'm not going to do it.
Just so you know, Native American tribes have a long, long history of not trusting the government. That could be the understatement of the whole year.
Wow.
My people, I'm a direct descendant of the Sand Creek Massacre in Colorado. My descendant was a white antelope. They were told to camp in a place with an American flag flying and a white flag underneath it, and they would be safe because they were massacred. They weren't just massacred, they were butchered. If you read the history of the Sand Creek Massacre, you will be in tears. So me and Stan in our investigations have had a lot of government people. We've had flights of helicopters go over areas where we've done investigations, unmarked black helicopters. We've had special ops people show up asking questions. They even had a marquee on the Quality Inn over there in Window Rock after one of our major investigations that said, "Welcome NASA scientists." NASA had no idea that their scientists were in Window Rock, Arizona. So, you know, we tend to be very careful about that stuff. And yeah, we've had people question us. Not men in black, government people. We even had them, and a lot of times in these conferences, we give shout outs to the military because we've had military people show up in plain clothes, come in after and sit in the back, take notes with a clipboard, and before everything's done, they get up and walk out. Not a word. So, you know, we know that they're very interested in the stuff we're talking about.
I want to comment, if I may. One of my abductees, and people make claims. That doesn't mean anything. Where's the beef? You have to have the beef. He came to me and said, this strange government guy came to my house, talking to me about it. He said he knew more about me than, he's asked me questions, yet he knew all my whole life history, everything. And I said, well, you know, I said, I hear this stuff a lot. Where's the beef? He said, well, after the guy finished talking to me and everything, he said he showed me his card and says, you have no right to speak to anybody about what we've talked about. This is privileged information, blah, blah, blah. I said, that's a lot of bull. I mean, a bunch of bull. He said, he left his card. I said, he what? What? Where's the card? Where's the beef? He sent it to me. Well, I said, I'm going to have some fun with this. So I used all the skills and abilities I had as a PI and all this other stuff and all my connections, and I didn't get anywhere. Nowhere. So I sent it, the information, to a friend of mine who's a special prosecutor, federal prosecutor. Said, need to keep this on the quiet, and let's, I need to know, is this real, is it fake, whatever. Talk to me. He did everything he could as a federal prosecutor, couldn't do anything, couldn't find anything. He says, is this important to you? I said, very. He went outside, went past Homeland Security, talked to somebody who was a big shot in Homeland Security. Privately, they walked outside, talked about the card, and says, I'll make some calls. Comes back later and says, yes, they exist. They investigate cases of contact, and it's government. These are government people, and he says Every president signs off on these people to do this stuff. Every president signs off on it. And it was a lady that told him, he says, "You didn't hear it from me. I don't know anything about it. Here's their address." One thing, like I said, I'm older, so I don't care. I'd love to walk up there with a live recording, of course, and say, you know, I want to talk to Agent so-and-so or whoever, and I understand you guys run an operation out here. Of course, you'll never get inside the gate, so to speak. But I would love to see their response about that. And last thing I'll tell you is that while I was on the Uncovering Aliens show, they had us out looking for this underground base. It didn't exist. It probably does, but no one ever found anything. The guy was lying. Well, I knew it. And I told him, I said, you know, you spent $100,000 of our time and money for nothing. You don't know anything about it. You never have been in an underground base. You're making this stuff up. And I said, I like you. You're a nice guy, but you're a liar. That's all there is to it. Sorry. And after we finished the series, the guy said, did you ever find an underground base? I said, well, I knew where it was all the time. Why did you not tell them? I said, they didn't pay me to do that. They paid me to find out if that guy's lying and tell the truth. He's a liar. So I've known where that underground base is for a long time. I said, listen to me carefully. You're going to get one shot at that. After that, you're not going to come within 3 miles of it. You got one shot. You can go up there. You're going to be confronted. It's going to be the whole 9 yards. You got one shot. I said, but you better have all your stuff. They're going to confiscate your cameras and everything else, but you got to have a live feed, or you're wasting your whole thing. I said, I'm waiting for the right time and the right place to do that. But yeah, we know where it's at. We've known for about 5 or 6 years now. But it's there, I guarantee you. But it has nothing to do with what these clowns are saying on TV. Just absolutely nothing.
You've made a compelling case that the government knows that there are UFOs. Would you please address the relationship between the military-industrial complex and aliens?
Yeah, we'll tackle that.
Good question. Wow.
Yeah, go for it.
Wow. I might get in trouble here.
We won't tell.
The military-industrial complex is very interested in this technology. It's a lot of different technology. They want that one up in weapons development. We're taking this stuff and we're finding better ways to kill ourselves. I don't know how many of you knew this. Just recently there was an article about Bolivia and how the U.S. government, the U.S. Public Health Service, after 1947, decided to go down there and inoculate people with syphilis without their knowledge, and spread it around and watch, and not cure it, watch the effects. At least 400 subjects. They were confronted with this information by the country of Bolivia and asked, what are you going to do about it? You know what they said? Oh, we're sorry.
It's your problem.
You know, not our problem. We're sorry. You know, our government does so many things. One of the things that just amazed me, you know how we always say, oh, the Nazis were evil. That, you know, they caused all these people to be killed and you know, executed. Did you know that the United States taught them how to do that? We had a program called eugenics. We were trying to breed people, and we went to the insane asylums and we sterilized people so that they wouldn't reproduce. Our 4-H club is a direct descendant of that program, how to breed things. We were going to breed a race over here in the 1930s. Guess who picked up on it? Hitler. And he says, let's do the same thing that America was doing because they really impressed me. And then we turn around and say, oh, look at those evil people. You know, again, history being subverted. So, yeah, the military is quite involved. And there are so many, it's compartmentalized. That way, they can only talk about one tiny little thing. Our friend Chuck Modlin used to work in cells like that. He'd tell 5 different engineers, I want you to build this, but wouldn't tell the other engineers who else was working on it, so they couldn't compare notes. They were compartmentalized, and each one would come up with a different solution. And they would take all those solutions and look at it, and their engineers would say, okay, let's add this one to this one to this one. And that's how they fix things. So, you know, the aliens could be us in another time, another dimension.
Yeah.
That either want DNA information from us, because you've heard the stories that their race is dying and all that, or maybe they just want to experiment with us, and we're being put through a test and being inoculated with disease. We have no idea. I've heard it said that all these different races of aliens that are being encountered, when Columbus first came over, he wasn't the only one. There was Vikings, there was Chinese, there was hundreds of different countries coming here. They didn't just want one thing. They wanted potash. They wanted mass timbers. They wanted tobacco. They wanted medicine. They wanted, you know, whatever they wanted to spread religion, their version of religion.
Fountain of Youth.
The Fountain of Youth, yeah, Ponce de Leon. And when all was said and done, you couldn't look at them and say they're coming for this, because they were coming for so many different things, for minerals, for, you know, whatever. So, you know, our aliens today are very similar. They're coming for all different reasons, and we can't pin it down and say this is one reason or another. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they were involved with our military.
Do you feel as if they're in direct contact with an alien presence?
Oh, sure. They absolutely, they have to be. I mean, this thing is way too big. There's way too much of it going on. And, you know, for them to be curious, I think they show up at our presentations because they want to know what we know. And believe me, a lot of the stuff that we know, we don't talk about. We really don't. We're giving you the stuff that we can give you. There's much, much more, but it leads to more speculation. So,
thank you so much.
Can I answer one question? This lady asked a question about memory and hypnosis, and I'd like to address it real quickly if I can. I hope this will be useful. Will people remember? I had an engineer come to me 20 years ago, and he said something weird happened. Me and a friend were traveling in Colorado. Something weird happened. He said, I don't know. We're driving. We're in Fort Collins. See some weird lights on the highway. Next thing we know, we're in Dalhart, Texas, truck and all. Help. So I said, well, have a seat. That became my senior investigator. Guy was brilliant. He had no idea what happened. But they were in Colorado Springs and ended up in Dalhart, Texas a few hours later. It's kind of hard to... And then when the wrong guy's driving the truck, when I get to Dalhart, and he looks over at Dale and says, did you see that elk? Remember I told you about the deer, the big black eyes?
Scream.
I said, Dale, last I remember Dalhart, Texas, the tallest thing there is about that tall, and scrub oaks, and I mean, not oaks, but sage and whatnot. I said, there's not very many forests there for elk to hide in. He said, that was really weird that he said that. He said, and what's he doing driving the truck? I was driving. Let's have a seat. Let's find out. Found out what went on through several sessions, and the long and short of the story is they rolled up the scene. They thought it was a beautiful blue and red lights. They thought it was, again, this is a screen. It's an accident. You know, these are emergency vehicles. Slow down. Well, when they slowed down and got close enough, they realized those are not EMTs. They're too short and they look different. And the next thing they know, I can tell you a lot, but it's irrelevant. The point is, they picked up the truck and all and left it running on the craft. And the guy that was with him was so scared. When he saw the truck, he ran and got in. Got in the driver's side, and he held on so hard to the steering wheel, the aliens actually thought he was going to die. They said, let's leave him alone. They're worried about the guy, which is good. And they just dropped him off in Derrel, Texas. And there are other cases where people have literally been carted off. I mean, one case, they were not only a different state like this, but one time they was in a different country. My point is simply that Dale didn't remember not one word of this. Now, when I worked with him several times in hypnosis, he remembered parts of it. He said, but I have to go back and watch the film over and over. He said, like that, I'm screaming so loud at one point because of the implant they're doing in the middle of my forehead with a needle. That just can't be true. He said, I look at my own film. That just can't, it isn't true.
Right.
Wrong. He said, then I go back and pull back the fold of skin in here, in the middle of my face, and there's a scar where the needle went through. Then I'm horrified. I watched the film more, remember, but he has to go back and watch it over and over to get, a lot of times your subconscious will hide things from you because it protects you. There's nothing wrong with that. There are people that don't want to be hypnotized. That's okay. I don't want to hypnotize. I don't care. We don't even use hypnosis except at the end of a case anyway, because all the other stuff needs to be done first. You don't hypnotize first bullet fired at that case is going to be you hypnotized and made them believe every word of that. Never do that. It's the last thing you want to do. If you want to do it at all, a lot of times we don't even use hypnosis anyway. You can get a lot of good information from people by wonderful NLP techniques that don't require any hypnosis whatsoever. So, but the fact is that we have other people that remember that you got them on film, screaming, hollering, and everything. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, leave my brother alone and all that. And I'll show you the picture of the lady, 17-year-old kid, painted a picture of her nude on the table with this praying mantis over the top of her, blah, 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 and all that. When she opened her eyes, her husband, his eyes were as big as saucers. She opens her eyes and said, I told you I was in the school of higher consciousness. Wonderful experience. You don't know anything. I said, you're exactly right. God bless America. I don't want her to know. I met that praying mantis guy when I was in 3rd grade. I pulled the heads off of hundreds of grasshoppers before I figured out the next day that it wasn't a grasshopper. It was a praying mantis. And, last question. This is it. There he is. You're the last guy. Give me $20.
Well, actually, I had a couple of questions. One for the Rangers. The orbs y'all were describing, were there, I don't even know how to ask that. Are they strictly, like, related to UFOs, aliens, or spirits as well? And also wanted to ask Mr. Sims about the satellites. I mean, would you be able to look at a certain place at a certain time in the past?
I'll start with some of that. With the orbs, my mother grew up in the 50s, and her father ran a store in rural Oklahoma where there was no power lines or any of that developed yet. She had a number of brothers and sisters. They had gone to town to get supplies for that country store, and they were driving back home as it was getting late in the evening, and there was this large orange light about the size of a volleyball, and this thing was hovering near the top of a tree, a tall single tree out in the middle of this field. She said as they got close along this dirt road where this was at, her father got out and walked across that field down near the base of that tree where this was at. And as he would get close to that tree, that light would fade out. And then he would start walking back, and it would light back up. And so there was phenomenon, in my life, or not, in my mother's lifetime, of witnessing things like that. John can tell you about growing up as a child and having seen these orbs that he was told by his grandparents that these were skinwalkers or witchcraft. You see in documented cases of hauntings and stuff, these fleeting orbs that are moving. Sometimes they're going into people and stuff. And so I think there's a lot of different types of orb. John and I, we described the zigzagging orb that these fighter jets were following in behind. That I would estimate that was a pretty big object in relative to the size of the afterburners that we've seen. So I think there is a lot of different types, and I don't think they all fit within one type of things. There's stuff related to hauntings, to UFO related phenomenon, and I think there's just a lot of people experience a lot of different things out there.
With modern technology, digital cameras, I have on many occasions taken pictures. Just take a flash on their digital and just start snapping pictures all around you. And when you find out, when you look at them later on, there's literally hundreds. When I was still living in my home in Zuni, New Mexico, we've had history of orbs, and there's the good and the bad. And certain events that will happen, they tell you in the future. If fire in the sky is a bad omen, because somebody's going to die. I tell that story about the orb that comes out on the south side of where my house was, and it's probably as big as this house. This room, diameter-wise, maybe about 8 to 10 feet in diameter. And I have actually taken people out there back in the 70s, and they would come out, and these people were, they were army guys, and they would literally get scared. And one of the things that I took a picture of probably about 3-4 years ago, using the digital camera, is that one of them had an orb which is bigger than the ones that were probably about like this. And the bigger one had a alien inside. Last August, we were up in Chihuahua, Washington for the Sasquatch conference. And I went over there and did a prayer stick ceremony to the Sasquatch people. And when I was standing there praying, the guy that took pictures, he's the guy that he takes pictures of fairies, takes pictures of UFOs and orbs. The orb that was on top of my head was a very strange one. It had rainbow colors when I was praying. And so orbs have been around forever. I've seen many pictures of those type of phenomena. And in the old days, they were, because our people were very superstitious, they would tell us about it, but that was what fell in the category of esoteric information. So when you go into this orders, then they open that knowledge to you. And so they're actually, some of them are messengers, some of them are go-betweens, especially in the medicine systems. And during curing ceremonies, there's actually, medicine men are actually conduits. We don't do heal, I mean, unless you're one of those kind. So a lot of your Indian tribes have that conduency. And this is really interesting, is that when during curing ceremonies, they would actually connect. Remember my slide about transceivers? And all the medicine people of the Native American communities have, and I have a very good experience. I have another engineer that we used to work with, and he went on in the Sioux Nation, they call it a vision quest. So he was ready to take that final step to go into that final stage to get his medical license in a way, you know. So they took him out there on a vision quest, and his godfathers, or you have to be like warriors on both sides. And they say we're going across the plain. He was kind of curious. He said, what the hell is that Christmas tree doing out there in the middle of nowhere? And as they got close, and of course the other guys didn't say anything. So he kept going and kept going, and finally it was not a Christmas tree. It was a spirit being that he's gonna meet. And when you start getting into deeper into the esoteric system, there's a thin line, like a curtain, and I say that it's about 1 molecule thick, and even maybe 1 atom thick. The people that are on this 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional side actually taught whoever you're representing on the other side. And this is also where near-death experiences comes into play. And so it's very, first of all, it's very spiritual, and at the same time it's very scientific. So we have had that information for thousands of years. So when we're talking about, when you see an alien all of a sudden just disappear, I don't know if some of you have read the Skinwalker Ranch. There's a phenomenon that repeats that type of activity. It's a paper book, it was written many years ago, but it's a combination of all the phenomenon that has happened throughout the thousands of years that Kelleher and Nat put it in a book. When I first read that, I just kind of laughed. I said, now they're getting around to it. And so this is what happens, and orbs have become very, very prevalent. Okay, now going back to about these, we were driving between Sholo and back toward Sedona on that road. We stopped. You know how when people die on the road, they put crosses on there? We were taking snapshots and we were driving on there, and this particular one where the crosses were, the activity, or the picture showed more orbs than between them. Maybe we see about maybe 10 for about 10 miles. And then when we come to those crosses where the people died, there's actually maybe about 100. Wow. So these are the phenomena that was made possible because of electronics. But in other times, when we talk about time warps, how pterodactyls can come out of nowhere. We were going to go to Utah about 2 years ago because they had reports of, remember those dinosaurs, I can't remember, you know, ones that jump around about this high? Yeah. They're in this one canyon, I can't remember the name of it, but we were going to go there. And so this phenomenon is happening for whatever reason, maybe because of the time shift that's going on, they're coming in back in and out, and it's happening all over the world. And
Portals open up.
well, you know, portals, wormholes, and that type of thing. Now, the American Indian community at large, the first place that they put under high security is where they work, the Manhattan Project, Los Alamos. That is the portal of the Milky Way galaxy for all the medicine societies. And the other one that's is over Grand Canyon, and then there's hundreds of them from all around the Indian land, and this is where they've taken over, the government has taken over. Remember the latest one is up in Utah, I think it was a Bear's Paw, whatever it was. They found out that there's also another portal there. Sidonia is full of them. And what we have been taught was that it's sort of like a Pandora's box. And there's a lot of civilizations that disappeared. So when they locked those up, they simply left. If you look at the big ones like the Chaco culture, the Mesa Verde culture, they simply disappeared. Our history doesn't acknowledge that we were descendants of it. Our tribes went there later and got information that was existing there, but in a proper way. I work with a friend, I think that you probably seen it on the disclosure project the first one I did with Corey Good. I work with a Hopi First Mesa man, and I actually saw a petrified alien that there was in one of the logs that they carried from Chaco into Hopi. So when we were ready to go out, he got intercepted by, I don't know who, he never told me. The other thing too is that in a photograph that was taken in First Mesa, they call it Wapi, right there underneath the step, this is probably taken in 1908, I believe. There's actually an ant being that was buried underneath the step. And what happened was throughout time when it weathered, it exposed the corner of it. And he showed it to me and said, "What do you see there?" I said, "There's an ant person underneath that step." So these are not coming out. And the only problem is that there's been a lot of interferences happened by people that want to have that. Remember I said save the Hopi people? They want to take credit for something that's already there, but it's very sacred. And we have a lot of places that the American government has gone in there, and they have cordoned a lot of areas. In Zuni, New Mexico right now, it's every time that there's a UFO, because I used to see them on occasion, within 5 minutes, there'll be those double, the Black Hawk type helicopters appear in 5 minutes. Where the hell did they come from? Albuquerque is 150 miles away. And they're there in 5 minutes. Nobody knows where the hell they come from.
Legally come on the reservation before, but now that's not a law that they can't come on the reservation.
Oh, they can come on. Indians don't own any land. That government can come anytime.
And they do.
And they do all the time.
Me and John we've seen Black Hawks, we've seen these helicopters that they used in that Bin Laden operation where they have the stealth technology and stuff. John has seen these craft without any type of aviation markings and things like that. So they're there, you know.
If you Google 1997 Zuni stealth crash, I think it's called 119A, I think it was. It's before, so 1997 was when it was quite new. And that crash it's right there in the information system. That plane was chasing something. And when it turned around, and I don't know whether it was like an orb or a UFO, nobody really knows, because it circled around there and that thing locked on to the stealth. He took it into the canyon, because I'm very familiar with it. I grew up there and I know all those canyons. And when it took that into the canyon, the pilot did not eject. He went down with the plane. And so there's a lot of things that happened. About a year ago, 2 years ago, we were driving in a place called Rema, New Mexico. We saw these jets that were coming in. It was like those Korean War jets where they had the two pilot and a co-pilot in the back. And when they flew over us, you can always hear a sonic boom. There was no sonic boom. And we saw that it was about, I'd say approximately maybe 150 feet above the ground. And they passed over, and I asked my brother, I said, "Did you hear any noise?" He said, "No." He said, "That's ancient jet aircraft," and had no markings on them. So this is happening all over the Indian reservations. And I mean, it is so vast. The Four Corners area's activity is going on really, really hot and heavy right now. And it's not any aliens, it's what they call the industrial military education complex now. Because and I did not know about the Treaty of Greada that was started under the Hoover administration. It's renewed every year. The last one, the famous one, was Eisenhower, when he felt guilty and he started talking about the industrial military complex. And you can read all the books about what happened with Kennedy and Khrushchev and all that time. So there's many information that's coming out. So I don't believe any damn thing that the United States government has put out. I studied it. Not a damn thing.
One of the
Whatever they
things,
say, it's wrong. We don't either.
one of the things
Whatever
that-
they say, it's wrong. Don't.
Right.
One of the things that we always like to point out from a native perspective is that since the white man came here, there have been over 6,000 treaties made with Indian tribes. Not one of them was ever kept. All of them were broken. So you can see that distrust goes very, very deep.
Could all the speakers make a final statement to the audience, please?
We want to thank you for taking the time, the patience to listen to us babble up here.
We're with you.
For me, there was a very wonderful man 2,000 years ago said something. It was, he's a greater love hath no man than this, that he give his life for his friends. I don't think that means you have to go out and die for everybody, but I think it means you need to be willing to do whatever it takes, to make them live. I think that's good philosophy.
I'm glad you guys, people came over here. We are now in a very high track. My brother's here to my sides. We are now at the stage where everything now has to come out. And we all at the Navajo Rangers and myself agreed last April when we went to the Sholo conferences. Now we're gonna open up everything, especially in the witchcraft part of it. I have taken a lot of effort to get other people to sort of, let's quit talking about these other things and let's be serious about it. I say this at every convention. I say, why are you guys so egotistical? We got pieces of the puzzle. Let's all work together and let's show it. And so I say this at every conference. And one of the things that I also tell them is that don't be scared. I have done this for a long time. I'm still alive. And I think that it's just like Bob Lazar. The reason that they haven't killed, but this is my theory, the reason they haven't killed Bob Lazar is that he's got information at every safe deposit, every bank, and then when the day that he dies, they're going to be open up. And so this is the attitude that I take about these other people. I have been intercepted many times, but I just laugh at them. Don't ever be scared of these crooks or the aliens, because they like this attitude about if you want to learn, don't anticipate, don't be scared, and be calm, and they'll come to you. It's just like any other animal. So, but I'm glad that I'm working with these people, and I think that we're gonna be working with other groups, but you're looking at the core group. And we got other people that are now coming in, and we sort of left out the wannabes because they just confused, they just muddy the water. So I'm glad that you folks came over here, and if you just keep watching the website, because the information that we put out is not, we're not looking for any fame, we're not looking for any ego, it's just the fact that we have to do this. So, thank you very much for showing up.
What is the website?
The human race has got to get away from killing each other. We've got to get away from the senseless murders that we see each and every day. We've got to get away from hurting each other, rape, murder, and war. There's much more important things. You know, we see these wars fought between different religions and different peoples. One of our greatest assets is our diversity as human beings. Right. If we were all the same, you look at, you mentioned the Nazis. What would the world be like if everybody dressed exactly the same? You know, our foods and religions, and that's our greatest part of humanity. And we've got to come together as a human race, and we've got to make others realize that this is wrong. Just a simple thing, you know, all these religions have a similar philosophy that's basically the golden rule. Treat others as you want to be treated. You know, it's that simple. And I really feel that should be our focus. And thank you all for coming out here. It's very, very important. Thank you all, each and every one of you.